everyone, and welcome to episode 8 of Discovering Steven Universe. Today the episode I'm going to be talking about is Serious Steven. And I have to say, one thing I love about this show is that it seems like they find a way to sneak the name of the episode in to just the dialogue in some form, and it's just very nonchalant. It's like they don't even necessarily call attention to it per se, but it's just they'll use the title name in the episode, and it works. It works pretty well in my opinion. But that's besides the point. Time to get into my favorite parts of this episode, starting with the Crystal Gem's protectiveness towards Steven. And I think this is something that I've commented on before as well, but particularly in this episode, when it comes time for them to split up and try and explore and find their way out of this pyramid-like structure, each of them wants to take Steven with them to keep him safe. In Pearl's case, it's to stay right there, keep him safe so that he, doesn't go anywhere to get hurt. Then there's Amethyst, who is just kind of, as usual, let's go do it, and blah! And obviously, as much as I love Amethyst, it's easy to see that she probably isn't the best one for him to go with when he's this inexperienced. And then there's Garnet, who, well, I think the best way to put it is actually my second favorite part of this episode, and that is Garnet is patient. And my second favorite part is actually Garnet's patience with Steven. Just throughout this episode, when they had to face these different trials, these different things going on, whether it was both happening at the time or in the past in the flashback, which I'll also touch on coming up, she just displayed this wonderful sense of patience toward him, because she knows he's not experienced. She knows he doesn't have control of his powers yet. But unlike Pearl, who just wants to protect him and keep him safe at all costs, and unlike Amethyst, who really has no concept of safety, or at least seemingly so, Garnet has this just very balanced mindset where she's going to let Steven try and, do his best to get through these trials, but at the same time, she's going to do everything she can to protect him. Because, she doesn't try to stop him when he starts, moving forward across the glowing tiles. But when the time comes that, he accidentally trips the trap in there, she pulls off some amazing feats to save him. And I don't know, I think Garnet may be my favorite gem, at least as it is right now. They all have wonderful traits, but I think as it is right now, I think Garnet is my favorite. But moving on from there, my third and final favorite part of this episode has to be the flashback. The flashback to the teacups, as they're referred to. And it's the whole event that gets Steven banned from riding any rides, apparently, from then on. And it's absolutely hilarious. And the way that it ties into their situation inside of this pyramid, and the way that Steven uses his instincts, and based on how he feels, he's able to recognize that moving feeling, like that turning feeling, similar to how he felt on the teacups, which made him feel sick. And he recognizes that, coming all the way around, he feels sick again. He has that similar feeling, which gets them to realize that, hey, maybe all the rooms are actually rotating around, which is, in my opinion, is a pretty brilliant plot point. And the fact that, it was written so that Steven figures it out in that way, I thought was really smart. Of course, and then there was just a hilarious little segment where Amethyst runs into one room and then comes out damaged in one way or another, one of which has her completely encased in an ice block. But yeah, so those are my three favorite parts of this episode. It's hard, I can't really come up with more for most of these because, they're all so short. Again, they're 11-minute long episodes, but I really liked all those aspects of it. Now, moving on, I do have some annoyances. I'll think about it a little bit more as I go along, but my first annoyance with this episode, and I know it's a kid's show, but Steven's childishness can be a bit annoying at times. And I mean, it's a trope that a lot of younger characters portray in no matter what show they're in. So it's not just Steven, but they go into this big place and he sees this floating triangle, and his first instinct is to touch it so that it flips around, or basically to mess with it, when you know you shouldn't do that, especially when you're on a mission, seemingly. But again, I know it's like he's a kid, that's the kind of mindset they're going with, and this is a show for kids overall. But there's just something about that regardless of whether it's Steven or other characters, just that simple-minded, ooh, what does this button do, or what does this do? That has a tendency to really just kind of strike a nerve with me. It doesn't affect my overall feelings of the episode, it's just a trope that bothers me in the end. But okay, my second annoyance with this episode, and this is one that's, it's more on reflection, it kind of bothers me, but it's the idea of regular Steven versus serious Steven. Because, thinking back, serious Steven isn't really all that different from regular Steven. I mean, it's just, there was no real difference. So when at the end, and we get the message that, you know, Steven, he wants to be serious Steven, and Garnet says, I prefer regular Steven, it's like the message there is clear. But the way it's portrayed in this episode, it's like serious Steven and regular Steven aren't different at all. The only difference is that when Steven is being serious Steven, he says, Serious Steven! Or, you know, Serious Steven activates! Things along those lines. So, again, I love the message of, you know, regular Steven versus serious Steven, but just the way it's portrayed in the episode didn't work along with the message, I guess you would say. Or at least not in my mind. But overall, well, I'll just get into my overall thoughts on the episode before I get into the other parts. My overall thoughts on the episode were, it was really good. I loved how, as opposed to just Steven saving the day, or, you know, one of the crystal gems saving the day, it was like, it was a real team effort there between Garnet and Steven, and I love that I love that camaraderie there. I love the way that they worked together. It was really nice. I enjoyed how just all that worked together, and it made it a good, a strong episode in my opinion, among many increasingly strong episodes so far. But okay, after my overall thoughts there, I do have a quote of the episode, and it may be the funniest part of this entire episode. It's during the flashback, during the teacups. The crystal gems went to the park with Steven. So in one cup is Garnet and Steven, and you know what happens with them. But then the first one we see is Amethyst and Pearl. And Amethyst is just, I guess she finds it boring because she's sleeping in the spinning teacups. But then we get the quote from Pearl, who is holding who's holding a teapot, and she just says, I misunderstood the point of this ride. And me saying it doesn't do it justice. Obviously, if you've seen the episode, if you've seen that scene, you know what I'm talking about. It's just absolutely hilarious, and just the comedic timing there is perfect. Again, I can't think of anything from this episode in particular that I found funnier or just more memorable overall. And again, with it being a rather strong episode. So yeah, that's my quote of the episode. If you have any others that you like, please do leave them down below, in addition to your favorites and or negatives / annoyances, which I forgot to mention earlier. So yes, put all of that down below. Before we close though, I do have a question and a theory. So my question is this, and it's one that, as we've gotten to see some more glimpses in previous episodes of Steven's powers, this is the question that comes to mind. When will Steven learn to control his powers? Like, after he displayed the bubble ability last time, and knowing that he has the capability of producing a shield as far back as the first episode, I don't know, it just seems like we would see some sort of training, some sort of way of them trying to teach him to control his powers beyond just what, you know, they tried to do in that first episode in their own quick little segments. I don't know, I'm anxious to find out when that's going to happen, because especially during some of the more dangerous segments inside the structure, or the pyramid structure, at the very least his bubble would have come in handy, possibly even the shield, like when the spikes were coming down and Garnet used her gauntlets to keep them up. Maybe Steven would have been too weak to really hold that up, but it's hard to say. The bubble definitely would have come in handy in that situation, in my opinion. Now, moving on from my question, I do have a theory for this episode, and it's a very minor one, but I'd say it's one that is sort of looking toward the future, sort of my ideas on what could happen moving forward. And I think it's kind of a given, but I'm rambling at this point, so I'll just proceed with my theory. And that is that Steven will begin to go on more missions. And what I mean by that is there will be more mission-themed episodes going forward that will involve Steven than the Crystal Gems go and do a mission and they come back, or at some point in amongst there, it's like Steven gets into hijinks. That's just my thought on it. Now, there's many episodes in the first season of this show, so, I mean, I don't know if they will actually go in that direction or not. I mean, I assume once he actually learns to control his powers, that might become more of a theme, but again, that's just my theory, that as he continues to prove himself, he'll start to go on more missions, and more of the episodes will be focused around those, more than just typical hijinks. I could be completely wrong, though, because, again, this is a kid's show, and Steven is a human who lives a half-human life. So, it's really hard to say, but those are just my thoughts. Alright, everyone, thank you very much for joining me for Episode 8 of Discovering Steven Universe. Again, leave any of your thoughts in the comments down below. I look forward to them. Do you disagree with any of the points I made here, or do you want to sort of maybe discuss some of the points I made in a little bit more detail? You know, definitely leave that down below. Try and avoid spoilers for future episodes, if at all possible, but again, it's like, you know, we can have discussions about what we've about this episode and episodes past, all y'all want. But alright, everyone, I will see you next time for Tiger Millionaire. And yes, I do have a sonic screwdriver for the end of Discovering Steven Universe. What the heck? It's because I'm going to go ahead and put a link for the latest episode right here. That's right, it's going right there. It's a crossover. Only it's not really. I don't know what I'm doing. Anyway, again, everyone, I will see you next time for Tiger Millionaire on Discovering Steven Universe. Later.